could not attend the program today because important office meeting she could not avoid. So she requested us, Jaya Subhadra and I, to do the program today. So with that, I'll ask Jaya Subhadra to introduce the verse and translation and the purport.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you so much for joining the BhagavatSanga program. We are going to read the verse that is displayed from Canto 10, Chapter 70, verse 25. Before we recite, we'll pray Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is again Srimad-Bhagavatam 10:70-25. Rajana Uchuhu Krishna Krishna Prameyatman Prapanna Bhaya Bhanjana Vayam Tvam Sharanam Yamo Bhava Bhita Pritagdiyaha. And this is the translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation is, the king said, as related through their messenger, O Krishna, Krishna, O immeasurable soul, destroyer of fear for those surrendered to you. Despite our separatist attitude, we have come to you for shelter out of fear of material existence. It's a short purport. Purport is, Sridhar Swami explains that the kings present their entreaty in this and the following 5 verses. In this verse, they take shelter of the Lord. In the next 3 verses, they describe their fear, and in the last 2 verses, they make their prayerful request. So Satya Sara is going to start the presentation or the class short presentation with this verse and carry on.
Thank you. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Saksharan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is a very beautiful prayer, and Jaya Subhadra and I were discussing today, this evening. This prayer was offered on behalf of 20,800 kings who had been imprisoned by Jarasandha. So before we talk about Jarasandha and how Krishna fulfilled the prayers of these kings, I just wanted to, the 2 things really stood out for me when I read this verse. And there is a beautiful instructions given to us, for all of us. So I wanted to address that, then we'll move on with the Jarasandha story and the pastime of Krishna killing Jarasandha through Bhima. Okay. So the last line of the verse is very important. We see Baba Bhita Pritagdiyaha, beautiful line, because this line talks about 2 things, the 2 emotions we all carry, or 2 attitudes the conditioned souls have in this world, and because of that they suffer. Put it other way around. These 2 things, if these 2 attitudes we have, we cannot progress in our bhakti. If you want to develop love of God, love for Krishna, and these are the impediments. And we need to come out of these 2 things. And this prayer is addressing those 2 things. So with that, let me talk about Bhava Bhita. Bhita means fearfulness in Sanskrit. So Srila Prabhupada, in the interest of time, so we have only half an hour given, so we want to go a little faster. So Srila Prabhupada, in one of the purports in Srimad-Bhagavatam, it talks about the 4 common activities we all do in this world. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maitunam. Ahara means eating, Nidra means sleeping, Bhaya means fear or defending. Because of the fear, we want to defend all the time. And Maitunam means mating. So of these 4 common things, the most prominent one is fear. Srila Prabhupada writes it in his purport. Because if you look at it, why it is so prominent, we can clearly understand that because we are ignorant of the next problem. We do not know what's going to happen next minute. We do not know what's going to happen next hour. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, and so on. So because of that, we have this psychologically, this fear. So that is that's what Srila Prabhupada says, that the fear is the most prominent of these 4 common problems or common activities we do. So we are always fearful. So when you talk about fear, scriptures talk about 2 types of fear. One is desirable fear. Desirable fear means this fear is good to have which will protect us from danger. So another type of fear is undesirable fear. This is the worst most of us have. Most of the cases, the fear is undesirable. What is example of that? Undesirable fear is the fear of a disease in enjoyment of material pleasures. Their fear of getting diseased so that I can enjoy my material pleasures. Fear of death, fear of losing material things, fear of losing our attachment. So this kind of fear is undesirable fear, because that is a fear of losing something material. As we all know, the nature of the world is temporary and you cannot avoid that. But we are so attached to things, so we are fearful of it. So that is undesirable fear, which is totally no for devotees. So what is a desirable fear then? So that is what's spoken in this verse. If you see, the desirable fear for devotees. I mean, I was thinking about it, and Prahlad Maharaj's prayers came to my mind. There's a beautiful verse. Prahlad Maharaj says, Naham bibemi ajitati bayanak, meaning Prahlad Maharaj says, Naham bibemi ajita ati bayanak ashya, meaning, my dear Lord Nrsingadev, you are showing Ugra form. Nrsingadev is in Ugra form, is showing the Ugra, the so ferocious, so angry. Prahlad Maharaj says, I am not afraid of this form at all, my Lord, but I'm afraid of one thing, he said. So that's the next verse he's talking about. He says that samsara chakra kadanat grahastam pranitaha, meaning, my dear Lord, I'm not afraid of even your form, but I'm afraid of the condition of life in the material world, samsara chakra. Why is afraid of it? He says that because the more I associate with this material world, the more I may get attached to things. I may get attached to material things, and that is going to keep me in this samsara chakra. Samsara chakra means the repeated birth and death cycle, and I'll be stuck. So that is what my fear is. So there's a beautiful purport in 10th canto. Srila Prabhupada writes brilliant purport in the second, I think in the 8th chapter. There Krishna, Srila Prabhupada confirms this fear. Even pure devotees are afraid of material existence. Like Prahlad Maharaj is the purest devotee you can see, but he has this fear. He says the fear of the condition of life in this material world. And Prabhupada also writes that in the purport. He says that, I'm going to paraphrase it, the devotees are always alert in fear of material contaminations. Very important point. I'm going to repeat this. Devotees are always alert in fear of material contaminations. This alert and fear is very important for the devotees. Why? Otherwise, we'll be very comfortable in this world. Okay, I have a house, I have a job, I have a wife, I have a husband, I have children, I have family, I have friends, I'm very comfortable. But that is going to drag us down further and further and further. So we have to be very alert in not getting contaminated materially. So because this alert and fear gradually is going to help devotees come out of material association, material attachment. Otherwise, there is no way we can come out of these attachments. So when I was a kid, I still remember the sloka we studied. It says, Janma dukkham jara dukkham jaya dukkham puna punaha samsara sagaram dukkham tasma jagrada jagrada. Jagrada means be alert. It's this verse says that Janma dukkham means the birth is also painful. Jara means old age is painful. Jaya dukkham, all this material enjoyment we have is also brings so much pain again and again. Puna puna. Samsara dukkham. Samsara sagaram dukkham, meaning the repeated birth and death is also so painful. So the living soul, be careful, be alert. Jagrada. So that's exactly the point here. The kings of who are imprisoned by Jarasandha are making in praying to the Supreme Lord. Another prayer came to my mind is Jantaruvacha prayer in 3rd canto. Beautiful prayer. The soul, human soul in the embryo form, inside the mom's womb, mother's womb, praying to the Supreme Lord. It's talking about this fear. My dear Lord, I'm in the terrible condition inside the womb of my mother. And that is because of my own impious activities. I have to take birth in this material world again and again. So my dear Lord, with your presence, with your consciousness, I don't need to be fearful of anything. So please give me this Krishna Bhakti or this consciousness. We all prayed this when we were in mother's womb actually. So But as soon as the child comes out of mother's tummy, we lose the realization due to the influence of material nature, due to the influence of Deva Maya. Huh? The beautiful prayers, the Jantur Vacha prayers, I think everybody should know. It's in third canto, I think 31st verse, Kapila's instruction. So here we can see that, the fear here the pure devotees carry in their heart, the fear of metal contamination is a purifying force. No, that is the point I'm making. So that is a good fear to have, not overly attached to material things. So that fear is a purifying factor. Hmm? Then we talk about the second attitude that this verse talks about is Prithak Diyaha, which is another beautiful the terminology, and we have to address this. Prithak Diya means, Srila Prabhupada writes it, translated a separatist mentality. Put it other way, discriminatory attitude based on bodily conception of life. So this means separatist attitude is there within all of us, because we feel, okay, it is mine, that is yours, it is my family, it is your family, it's my son, my daughter, it is your son, your daughter. And there is I want to get it, and my family should get it, not you or your family. Or sometimes we do this we have the separatist mentality based on skin color. I am white, you are black, you are red, I am yellow, whatever. You caste, and there is a race, human, whatever the race you belong to, the language you speak, the place you are from. So we do all this this is called the separatist mentality. So we have to get rid of this mentality, because this is based on bodily concept of life, and we cannot develop love for Krishna if we have this kind of attitude. And also Prithak Diyaha, there's another meaning also in Sanskrit. It is having separate interest from Krishna, meaning we may be devotees, or we may be accepted the teachings of our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada, and we may be practicing bhakti, but we might have this separatist mentality. And also we may have a desire to enjoy something separate from Krishna. I want to enjoy, but there's no Krishna there. So this attitude is mentioned in many verses in Srimad-Bhagavatam. If you read the Bhagavatam, this particular attitude is condemned in Bhagavatam in many places. That means it is super duper important for all of us to think about and practice in such a way that we can come out of this attitude. The terminology used, I was telling Jaya Subhadra, Prithak Diyaha, here it is used. Somewhere else it's used a Prithak Dishaha, same meaning. Then Prithak Bhavaha, then it says Binnadrik, and Paragya Buddhihi. So like that, Bhagavatam uses different words, different, the composite words to describe this mentality, and it condemns this mentality. So this attitude, the Prithak Diyaha attitude, separatist attitude, is due to envy. We have envy towards the Supreme Lord, so we want to enjoy separate from Him. We have envy towards other living beings, so we start to see from the body perspective. So if you want to come out of these two things, the undesirable fear and the separatist mentality, we should use this verse to pray to Krishna. That is the point I'm making, to remove this separatist attitude from our mind. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Jaya Subhadra so she can talk about Jarasan's story of Jarasan's birth. Then I'll conclude it. Over to you, Jaya Subhadra.
Okay, so Jarasandh, as a personality, he was very powerful, and his birth is equally, we can see from the story. So he's the son of Brihadratha, who is the mighty king of Magda, and his father Brihadratha owned 3 Akshahonis. Now Akshahoni is like thousands of chariots one owns, thousands and thousands of chariots, and thousands of elephants, thousands and thousands of elephants, thousands and thousands of horses and soldiers. So because this was his strength, he was very puffed up king. He actually married the 2 daughters of the king of Kashi, and many years had passed by, but they did not have a heir to take the dynasty further. So one day the king Brihadratha went to the forest, and he met a sage there named Chandrakoshika, and he served the sage very nicely and took great care of him. And then the sage was very pleased with him, so he asked for a benediction. The king asked for a son because he needed a son to continue his dynasty. So the sage gave him a mango and asked, "Give it to your wife to eat." The king was very happy and he went back to the palace happily. He divided actually the mango into two halves. He cut the mango into two halves, giving each half to one of his wives. Um, and in due course, the queens became pregnant. The king was overjoyed and was waiting for the birth of the children. But what happened was both the queens gave birth to half a child, meaning it was only the half body, meaning only one eye, one hand, one ear kind of thing. The other half was missing. And this was the queens were like, who would want such a child? They said to the king, "Please throw these portions away into the forest. We don't want." And so the king did that. After some time passed, there was a demoness, Jara, who happened to come to the spot where the two halves were thrown. And she loved human flesh. So she decided, okay, this is nice meal for me. I'm going to go home, enjoy it nicely. Uh, and to make it easier, she just picked up both the halves, and she wanted just put it together just like that, and they joined together. The two halves joined together to form a live child. And this was not an ordinary child. As soon as it joined together, uh, the child became so heavy, and also started crying, and they say it started roaring also like a monsoon cloud. So the king, who happened to be in the area, heard this crying and roaring sound, and he came to the spot, and he saw this demoness Jara holding the child. And Jara was actually very pleased with. She knew about the king, the dynasty, the rule. He was the kingdom he was ruling, and she was very pleased with how he was ruling it and all. So then she knew that he is also childless. So she handed the child to the king and said, "Here, take this child. He's for you." So the king was very happy, and he took the child home, and Jara disappeared. Now, because Jara is the one Jarasan's name comes from, because Jara is the demoness who joined the two halves together. So Jara and Sanda, so Jarasandha is the name. The child was named Jarasandha. And he grew up to be a very powerful personality. He was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. And his father saw this power of his son and the influence of his son, and he crowned his son to become a king and run take the dynasty forward. So his father actually entered into the forest to perform austerities, and he retired from being a king. So this is the story of the birth of Jarasandha. Satya Sara will take it further from here. What happens next?
So as Jaya Subhadra was saying, Jarasandha was a king of Magadha dynasty in Bihar province. So he had two wonderful daughters, and they were married to Kamsa, as we all know. And of course, Krishna killed Kamsa. So Jarasandha developed intense hatred towards Lord Krishna. He wants to kill Krishna, basically. So, as you know, Krishna was, in Mathura at the time, and Jarasandha was attacking Mathura. He wants to kill Krishna and also the Yadus. So that was his goal. We don't have time. It's a beautiful pastime, but I'm going to run faster. So he attacked 17 times. And of course, Krishna is so powerful. And though Jarasandha knows that he had a strength of 10,000 elephants, but Krishna defeated Jarasandha 17 times. Krishna will kill all the demoniac force, the army that Jarasandha would bring, but he will leave Jarasandha alive and humiliate him. Jarasandha will go back to his kingdom. Again, he will gather all the demoniac force, army, and come back and attack Mathura, and Krishna will defeat him. So it's 17 times it happened. And of course, 18th time, Krishna performed a very beautiful pastime the ranchod pastime. Krishna left the battlefield to demonstrate the opulence of renunciation. So that's why in Rajasthan is still Krishna is worshipped as the ranchod ji actually. So even today, so we'll talk about it maybe one day if we have more time. So I'm coming back to Jarasandh. So Jarasandh is in a mode of ignorance. If you remember last one of the classes last week, I was talking about there is a mode of worship given for people in ignorance, mode of worship for people in passion and of course in goodness, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So Jarasandh this was in mode of ignorance. So he was doing a Kala Bhairava puja, Kala Bhairava worship, very ghastly form of worship. So he wants to do a very elaborate Kala Bhairava puja. And for that puja, he wanted to offer the heads and blood of Kshatriyas, many Kshatriyas. So he wants to offer that to Kala Bhairava so that he can get the power, tamasic power, so you can use it to attack his enemies and things like that. So that's how he collected this 20,800 kings, because these kings, they didn't accept Jarasandha as superior. So he imprisoned them, he put them in the cave, and he treated them so badly, worse than the slaves. They were hungry, thirsty, you won't feed them, and they all were suffering. They're in a very suffering condition. So that's when they found a messenger and they passed on the message to Krishna through the messenger, saying that, Krishna, please come and kill Jarasandh and relieve us from this painful condition. You are the only one who can do, because you are the Supreme Lord. So they wrote a beautiful prayers and they gave it to the messenger. So when the messenger arrived, at the time Krishna was in Dwaraka, because Krishna moved the Yadu, complete the Yadus, all the Yadavas to Dwaraka, and they were safely situated there. So the messenger came. At the time Krishna was in the assembly, and the messenger came and said, this is the message of this 20,800 kings imprisoned by Jarasandh. My dear Lord, you have to come and kill Jarasandh and relieve these kings. So at the same time, Narada Muni also appeared, because Narada Muni was coming from Indraprastha and carrying a message of Maharaj Yudhishthira, because Maharaj Yudhishthira wanted to perform Rajasuya Yagna, and he wanted Krishna to be the chief guest for Rajasuya Yagna. So Narada came with the message, and Krishna heard Narada also. Of course, there's a beautiful discussion between Krishna and Narada when Narada arrived, because Krishna was first offering his respect to Narada Muni. Even though Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he was doing a Pada Puja for Narada Muni. So there's a lesson for us to learn. When the elders come, when the spiritually elevated person comes, we have to offer proper respect. And Krishna was teaching that, even though he's a Supreme Lord. Then Narada told this. Now Krishna has two things to do. One is, the messenger is asking Krishna to go to Magadha kingdom and kill Jarasandh and save this 20,800 kings. Second is, Narada is telling Krishna about Rajasuya Yagna of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and he had to go to Indraprastha. So which one Krishna do first? So this is the dilemma. We also face in our life, there are many tasks, many priorities. Which one we do first? Isn't it? Very practical thing to do. And Krishna is teaching a beautiful lesson, how we resolved it. Though he is a Supreme Lord, he could do many things the same simultaneously or whatnot. But he wants to teach us. So what he did is, he calls his advisor or minister, Uddhava. He says, my dear Uddhava, you are, Krishna glorifies Uddhava. See, again, there is an etiquette to be followed here. Krishna is teaching. He's going to ask for advice. So he glorified Uddhava's good qualities first. Then he asked nicely, my dear Uddhava, can you please advise me? What should I do here? Because there are two high priority tasks I need to do, and both are important equally. So what should I do? So here, the lesson for us, at least for me, is that Krishna does not think that, I am the king or I am the Supreme Lord. I can bypass everybody and make decision myself. No, he did not do that. He gave respect to Uddhava as he was doing the service of being the king's advisor. So this is the same quality you can see in Lord Ram as well, the Supreme Lord. When Vibhishan Charanagati, when Vibhishan took shelter of Lord Ram, Lord Ram did not, make a unilateral decision. He asked the people who are doing the different services. He asked Hanuman, "What is your opinion?" Angada, "What is your opinion?" Sugriva, "What is yours?" And he asked the senior Vanaras as well. Then the Lord made the decision. So the lesson as a leader, if you are leading service or you are leading a team at work or in the family, your mother or father or whatever role you play in your life, we should always think that we cannot bypass the people who are in charge of a particular service. We have to give them the due respect for the role and service. Very important point. So, meaning sometimes we may delegate some work to some of our subordinate or some of dependents or whoever, and we cannot just make a decision unilaterally. So you need to involve them and get their opinion, and of course we have to do the right thing. So that is exactly what Krishna was doing, and Uddhava gave a beautiful advice, so that we can understand the Uddhava's quality and position also. So in the interest of time, I'm going to go very fast. In 3 minutes, I'll wrap it. So he said, "My dear Krishna, you should do both." This is how Uddhava started. Then he explained it. First, you go to Indraprastha. Go at least few days early, before Rajaswa Yagna, so that you can give your association, divine association, to Pandavas and and the family and everything. Then before Yagna starts, you take Bhima with you and go to Jarasandha's palace and have a one-on-one fight with Jarasandha and finish him off. So then he gave a reason for that. He said that Maharaj Yudhishthira wants to do Rajasuya Yagna. Rajasuya Yagna means Maharaj Yudhishthira will become the emperor of the world, and all the kings should accept him as an emperor. If somebody is objecting him, then they have to fight with him, and you have to win. There are two kings, they have not accepted Yudhishthira Maharaj as an emperor. One is Sisupal, second is Jarasandha. This is what Uddhava is saying. Anyway, Krishna, Sisupal is invited to Rajasuya Yagna, so he's going to come because he's a relative. So you will be there, and you will take care of him. But Jarasandha, he doesn't want to come. He won't come for Rajasuya Yagna, and he is also against Maharaj Yudhishthira. So Rajasuya Yagna will not give any benefit to Yudhishthira Maharaj or to Pandavas. So it will be void. So in order to address that, you have to finish him off, and you cannot finish. You have to take Bhima with you. So this is the Uddhava's beautiful advice. So then Uddhava also said one more thing. He said, let us go for one-on-one fight, not the war. If you go for all-out war, there will be more people will be killed. And before Yagna, so much bloodshed and so much killing is not good for the Yagna. The consciousness will be very different. So it is better to go one-on-one and finish him off. That's a beautiful advice Uddhava gave. So then, of course, Krishna just went to Indraprastha. He convinced Yudhishthira Maharaj. He took Arjuna and Bhima with him. They all dressed up like a Brahmana, disguised as Brahmanas. They went to Jarasandha's palace. And of course, Jarasandha figured that these guys doesn't look like Brahmanas. They're dressed up like Brahmanas, but they have Kshatriya bodies. So, but he said he respects Jarasandha. One weakness is he respects Brahmanas. So then they said, Jarasandha, we don't want anything. We want to fight with you. Jarasandha said, okay, I'll fight with you. You are a Brahmana. Then he said, tell me the truth. Who are you really? Then they disclosed the identity. It's Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. Then Jarasandha said, I cannot fight with Krishna because he ran away from the battlefield. He is covered. I cannot fight with him. He said, I cannot fight with Arjuna because he is junior to me. He is not equal to me in strength. But Bhima I can fight. As we all know, Bhima also had 10,000 elephants strength. So Jarasandha and Bhima were fighting. The fight went on for 27 days. And Bhima, 28th day, tells Krishna, my dear Krishna, I cannot kill Jarasandha because he is so powerful. And of course, Jarasandha also cannot kill Bhima. They are equally powerful. Then Krishna tells Bhima to the gesture that he took the twig and said, okay, tear him off into two pieces and throw him away. So Bhima does that. He just tears them into two pieces vertically, and he threw them. You know what happened? Again, they came back together. The two halves, they came back and joined back. So then Bhima was confused. What should I do? Then Krishna tells him that throw the halves upside down so that they cannot join back. So that's how Bhima kills Jarasandha. And as soon as Jarasandha is killed, Krishna says that Sahadev, Jarasandha's son, should be the king of Madha dynasty. He installs him as king. Then he requested Sahadev to release all the kings that are imprisoned, and that's how he got the kings released from the imprison. So this is the story of Jarasandha and Krishna's pastime of getting Jarasandha killed. So with that, we wanted to thank you all for joining and attending program today. I am 2 minutes over. I apologize for that. You might have seen Veena Mataji's message that we are starting a new theme for BhagavatSanga program starting next year, January 6th is the first program. The theme is Gajendra's prayers of surrender, beautiful prayers from 8th canto, chapter 3. So we would like to humbly request all of you to sign up for the new theme, and we can read Bhagavatam and share our learnings with everybody. So with that, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Satya Sara Prabhu and Jaya Subhadra
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.